Hey everyone, I'm Jen, and I own a veterinary technician relief business.
And I'm Michelle. I own a veterinary technician mobile house call business.
And you are
And you are
listening
listening
to
to
Endless
Endless
Journeys,
Journeys,
the Vet
the
Tech
Vet Tech
Odyssey
Odyssey
podcast.
podcast.
In this podcast, we will be discussing and meeting with credentialed technicians who have created their own path with business ownership within the veterinary space.
Our goal is to help inspire burnt out vet techs before they leave the industry altogether through our stories and the stories of other vet tech business owners. Happy Monday, everybody. How are you doing?
Happy Monday, everyone. I'm doing great. How are you?
Well, technically it's Friday, but
Yes.
people will be listening on Monday. So
Hopefully
it's
I can
good.
get this out on a Monday. That's what we agreed to, so that's what's happening.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see. So you might listen to this on a Thursday morning. I don't know, but yes, it is Friday for me
I
and
don't
Jen.
know. This is our chill and spill episode, another bonus episode today.
Yes, and it is a good one. I like this one. And me and Jen thought we would change it up a little bit and add a little spice since it is Friday. If you're not watching this, she has her wine. I have my wine. I'm one glass in, or maybe like a half glass in. And
You're
it's
already
just gonna be
one glass in?
maybe like a half. I don't know. I
I,
just cracked open
I
the bottle when I started talking to you.
okay, so did I. I mean, well, I cracked mine open before we actually got on, but I am a very slow sipper. Like sometimes it irks my husband where I'm like, he's like, "Are you gonna have another glass? Because if you are, we're gonna be here for another half an hour or longer." And I'm like, I just like to sip and enjoy my wine. So I poured myself a glass, and it's still pretty full. I'm just a slow sipper. I just very much like I like to enjoy the taste of it. So
Okay, so you're sophisticated. My family is from Kentucky. So we are not sophisticated. When I like
what? You make it the word sophisticated? Like, no. What?
you are compared to me, yeah. So I actually don't drink a lot, which is funny because after
Okay.
2 glasses, I will hug anybody in the room after 2 glasses. But I don't know if I've ever told you this. So my family is legit. My mother's side of the family, we're legit from a small coal mining town in Kentucky.
Okay.
And back in the day in Kentucky, moonshining, and still is actually a thing. Like,
Oh yeah, we
m-
get that here in Idaho too.
like, okay, now are you talking about moonshine? Moonshine? Are you talking about you get it literally out of a milk gallon, like a jug of milk, or in a mason jar? Because that's the shit I get.
Mason jar.
Okay, cool. So it's the real.
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's technically illegal, but we won't say that.
Yeah, probably. I mean, we don't get it a
Yeah.
lot, but I mean, in this
No.
area, I see it. Idaho is the first place I ever tried moonshine, so it's disgusting. I freaking hate it.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, I had it a couple of times as an adult and I can't handle it.
It's
Even
so
a
gross.
cap. Oh yeah, even a cap full of it.
Mm-hmm.
But my great uncle was actually a moonshiner. Like the guys you've seen on TV from the mid 2000s. That's my family. So we're crazy hicks. I'll embrace it. And my great uncle, once he went way past the house, into the woods, me and my cousins thought the big silver thingy was a spaceship, and we played underneath of it,
Oh
and we
my
played
gosh,
around it.
that's so funny.
That's how hillbilly wine drinking. That's my level. That's why when I talk to you, I'm like, yeah, I like rum and coke, but every now and then I will drink a wine. Um, and I, but yeah, so it's in my blood, but I can't handle it for whatever reason. But yeah, we're hillbillies. We're not classy. We just chug it. But
I just love the taste. And I like before, so I used to never drink. I used to not drink at all. I tried to get into wine in my early 20s and I just didn't like it. And then I went through a traumatic experience like every person who ends up, enjoying a little bit of alcohol every now and then.
We've all been there once.
And
Yeah.
and then I ended up really liking ciders. And so I would drink ciders every now and then. I still will drink ciders every now and then, but then I really just like, I was like, I want to try wine again. And I just fell in love with the wine, and I just like trying different wines. I'm a red wine girl. I really don't really like white wine at all, because I think it reminds me too much of like bubbly and champagne, and I don't like the bubbly. But I really like the European wines. They're my favorite. And I just have acquired a taste. I mean, I'm in my 30s, right? I mean, that's what happens. Sometimes you acquire a taste at some point. So I just love my wine, and I drink it on the weekends, and it's Friday. And
It's
so that's
Friday.
why me and Michelle thought, you know what? This is gonna be a a, a good topic. So that's just what I do with my girls. Whenever we hang out, we have a glass of wine, we have a couple drinks, and we shoot the shit, and we have a good conversation. Me and Michelle figured at this point, we're co-hosts, but I'd say we're also pretty good friends at this point
Yeah.
in time. So let's do the same thing. Let's have a good time. Let's wind down. Let's have a good conversation, and let's open up a bottle, man.
Hell yeah. The bottle's been opened. What are you drinking?
So I'm drinking an Italian red wine. It
Okay.
is a 2020, and it is, I don't think it's a red blend. So obviously the Italian wines, they are in Italian. So it's hard for me to get an idea here of what exactly it is. It says Casal Valero Mira Vigna, and then the rest of
Okay.
it's just in Italian. So I just know that it is a red wine. I'm sure the guy who I buy it from my wine shop would know exactly what it is, but he's amazing. But yeah, and so far it's very, very good. I like it a lot. Like my Italian wines, very, very good. I want to say it's probably a red blend, because I don't see anything specifically that says that it's like a cab or anything like that. So I'm going to go with it's probably a red blend.
Okay. I am drinking, so I like my wines very sweet, like very, very sweet, like dessert wines. And
Mm,
I'm a dessert wine gal. Like
okay. Yeah,
you're
those
gonna
are
hate,
super sweet.
yes, you're gonna hate me for this one, but there's been times where I've drank regular wines, and it's like I'm at home, not at a restaurant. And especially if it's a red, I would put grapefruit juice in there if it was too
Oh
bold.
my gosh.
I'm sorry,
Well, was
but
it really watery? Is that why? Or just like to get that more of that sweet taste into it?
to get the sweet taste.
Okay.
The boldness, I'm not a fan of. I like the sweet. So this one is a very sweet wine. It is from St. Julian, which is a winery here in Michigan. And you can find these at any like liquor store. Like I went to the liquor store like 2 hours before we started recording to pick myself up a bottle. And it is called Sweet Revenge. I feel
Mm.
like it almost goes with my personality a little bit. And it's a sweet red wine from Michigan, St. Julian. That's all it says. But the bottle with the $11.99 price tag still on it, it's really cool. And it's got the eye. Like, I'm like, that eye makeup is really good.
Oh my
But
gosh.
yes, it is such a sweet, nice, like very, very sweet, sweet wine. And out of every red wine I've ever had, this one just so happens to be my favorite.
Okay.
It's just very sweet. Like, I feel like you could eat it if you had, like, a strawberry cheesecake for dessert, I
Okay.
think, or a cherry cheesecake. I feel like that would go well. But I just like the fact it's called Sweet Revenge. Like,
Right? Yeah.
I'm like, revenge. Yeah. This is my type of wine. It's my name all over it. So, yeah. So that's what I'm
I
sipping on.
I really like the fruity wines, and mine's mine's very smooth. Not a lot of tannings. It's not very dry. Um, I like the smoother wines. It doesn't have that rich aftertaste at all. I like this one. It's really, really good. And usually my husband got it. He said this was the wine of the month wine at the wine shop that we go to. So usually the wine of the month is only like $10.
Thanks. Save it for sure. But I'll be sipping on this as we go through the episode.
Yeah.
I will
All
be,
right.
especially on this topic. I'm gonna need it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right.
All right. So that's kind of something that we really wanted to do with these Chill and Spill episodes. I feel like a lot of our listeners might also be wine lovers or red wine lovers, or just so we thought that if we talked about the wines a little bit and give you an idea, it might want you guys to expand your palates as well a little bit. And I love wine. My friends who are listening to this episode know that I love red wine, and they always say that I'm fancy, but I don't think I'm fancy at all. But yeah,
You're
I just
fancy.
I don't feel like that, but I am told that a lot.
You said my husband went to the wine shop. I'm like, I went to the liquor store at the corner. Think about that.
Well, when we have a wine club with yeah, we have a wine club, and we go to the wine shop with Trevor, who is amazing in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and like we love him so much, and we always go to wine tastings with him. He knows his shit. So yeah, I mean this is what we like to do. So anyway, moving on. Okay, okay, so I'm going to talk about the topic that we are going
Okay.
to be discussing.
Got it.
And the topic that we're going to be discussing on this Chill and Spill is, we're not going to be talking about one specific incident. We're going to be talking about multiple incidents. But the fact that when things happen in veterinary medicine or at veterinary clinics, or if a veterinary clinic gets put on blast, basically, or a veterinarian gets put on blast, or veterinary staff gets put on blast for something specific, and then it gets put on social media, and not only the way non-vet med people respond, which is usually horrible, but even veterinary people, how they respond, which is not always supportive and also can be horrible, and how we really don't support each other. Despite the fact that so many people out there say, not one more vet, we have such a high suicidal rate, we need to do better, blah, blah, blah. But when shit hits the fan with specific clinics or specific people, they really don't get very much support. They get as much judgment, if not worse judgment, than non-vet med people are giving as well.
Agreed. Yeah, and it sucks because when these things come up, I feel like it starts in vet med. Like everybody in vet med will see it first. It gets circulated throughout everything, and then it expands into everybody else, the pet owners, and next thing you know, it's a shit show. And what is it? The most recent one was, and we've all seen this one by now, but it's where the staff was unaware that a euthanasia was going on, and they had an inside joke. And come on, every clinic I know has an inside joke. Like we all joke around about something. We all had really weird nicknames for each other at the last clinic I worked at. Like no other clinic did that. But we have to find a way to, that's what I'm looking for, to self-soothe, right? And to have a clinic say, this is our inside joke, taking photos of each other or taking selfies with somebody else's phone that's left behind. It's funny. Me and my husband, we have something that we do called earthquake. And that is if we're holding up the phone, if we get caught, like if I'm holding up my phone, Alex will come by me and knock my phone on my hand and go earthquake. And that is very frustrating. But I will do it back to him too. And then we both laugh hysterically. But if you didn't know me and Alex, you would think it's weird, but it's just something that me and him do. And then we'll go aftershock and try to knock the phone out of each other's hands again. And it can happen at any point, anytime. It's a silly little game we play with our phones.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like that clinic is doing the same thing. It's a silly little game we're playing with our phones. They probably had no idea what was going on in the next room because clinics are big. We always don't know what's going on in every single room in every moment of time. And I'm sure if they did know that something was going on, they would probably be maintaining a little bit more quietness, I would imagine. That's what I think. Again, I don't work there.
Well, it was an emergency clinic, right?
I think so. Yeah, they're emergency. Yeah, they're an emergency clinic. Yes.
Okay. So I obviously work at emergency clinics. I relieve for emergency clinics. I think there was a couple statements on there by non-vet med people and vet med people that were appalled, saying that how dare they act that way during a euthanasia. Now, working in emergency clinics, we're performing euthanasias pretty much all the time. All of the time, euthanasia. And like you said, depending on how big the clinic is, how many patients are being seen, how many veterinarians there are. If that were the case, how dare we act happy or smiling when a euthanasia is being performed? So what are we supposed to do when a euthanasia is being performed every second? We're just supposed to not have fun. We're supposed to, I mean, come on. Like, that's not even realistic. And if you've never worked in an emergency clinic, you have no idea. I mean, most of the things that we see in emergency are horrible. They're all horrible. And most of the time, we're trying to just keep it together for ourselves, for the clients, for, the next patient that we have to see right after we perform a CPR stat on something that died. Okay, now we got to move on to the next thing. Come on, we all know this as veterinary professionals. A little amount of joy that we can have with each other, with our patients that we are taking care of, like, that's all that we have. So to sit there and even just make that comment, come on.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's how I feel about it, and that's my take on working in emergency. You cannot sit there and just be sad all the time. I mean, yes, it sucks. It sucks for the owner. It's, yeah, I totally get that. And obviously, if it was the owner's phone, I mean, that's even more devastating. But come on, nobody would do that on purpose. Nobody would do that maliciously to an owner.
Yes.
It was a mistake. It was a bad mistake. It was wrong place, wrong time, wrong owner. But nobody would do that maliciously. No,
Nobody.
like, especially if if they're saying that it was, it's a inside joke that they do with each other's phones, coworkers' phones. Nobody would do that on purpose. Is there anybody that has worked in vet med where they're receptionists, they're vet assistants, they're licensed vet techs, they're veterinarians, that we would say, hey, let's do this. It'll be so funny while the owner's euthanizing their pet.
No.
Because we want to be assholes.
Yeah, absolutely not. There's nobody out there that does that.
No. And the fact that things were twisted to say that, it was done maliciously, it was, come on. I mean, people don't know what we go through in veterinary medicine. When an owner goes through a euthanasia like that or something devastating like that, it is true. That's their day. I mean, I remember, I'm going to use an example right now. I remember before I started working in vet med, my cat got saddle thrombus, and I didn't know it was saddle thrombus. I had never worked in vet med before. I remember putting him in the kennel because he was screaming in agony, and he bit me, and my cat had never bit me before. He was the sweetest cat. I had even been told when I would take him into veterinary clinics that he was just the sweetest cat ever. Everyone loved him, and I always thought that was weird. I was like, well, of course he's sweet. Like, they always say how sweet he is. Why are they saying that? And now I work in vet med, and I know, like, when I get a good cat, I say the same things to the owner, like, he was so good. Because for the most part, cats are assholes, and they're fractious, and they want to eat you alive. So whenever I see a good cat, I'm like, he was so good. So I totally get it now. Anyway, I remember on the way to the vet with how in distress he was, my grandma told me, she's like, we're going to have to euthanize him, right? And I said, yes, I already know this. Because he was he was a saddle thrombus cat. He was yowling in pain. He wasn't able to walk. And I was like, whatever's wrong, it must be really bad. And I don't think that we can just fix this. And he's in pain, and I just want him out of his pain right now. So we took him to the vet. And I remember my grandma went up there. My cat's yowling in pain. I know something's wrong. And I remember just sitting there And the vet staff, they were just focusing on what they were focusing on at that moment. And I was in my devastation at that time. All I could think about was my cat. He was yowling in pain. And I remember thinking, why aren't they grabbing him? Why aren't they taking him straight to the back right this moment? Like, why? Like, this is so bad. Why do they not think this is as bad as I think that this is? And I remember going through that in my head and just being like, they don't seem to care. But that's not what it is. And we as veterinary professionals know that that's not what it is, right? We're so busy. We've got so many patients that we're seeing, especially in an emergency clinic. It's not that we don't care. It's that we're so focused on what we're doing at that moment that we're trying to take care of it. And I remember eventually we got him in the room. They took him straight to the back. I'm pretty sure they gave him Dexdom and Torb because when they brought him back, he was pretty sedate. We had already agreed to euthanize him, and that was it. But I do remember in that moment sitting there, hearing him yowling in pain and screaming. I don't know. Have you ever heard of saddle thrombus cat, Michelle?
No, fortunately, I have not, but I've heard.
It's horrible. And I remember just sitting there and hearing him screaming, and nobody was jumping on it. And I remember just thinking, like, they don't care. They don't seem to care. And so I can see from an owner's perspective how we might seem sometimes. And that's not what it is at all. It's not that we don't care. It's just that we're so overwhelmed and we have so many other things going on. And we have, you know, who knows what's going on in the back. They might be performing CPR. And I would say that in my experience now, most saddle thrombus cats that we see, they're stats. They are the patients that we immediately take them to the back. We immediately try to get them as comfortable as possible. And we try to explain to the owner, this is not good. It's a poor prognosis. There are some things that you can do, but it may not end great still at the end of the day. And I don't know, maybe they had something else going on. Maybe they had something more emergent going on at that moment as soon as we brought him in that I had to sit there and wait. And sometimes as an owner, when you are going through something like that, when you're sitting down and you're waiting, it feels like it's forever.
Yeah.
But maybe it's not. So I just remember thinking those things in my head. So I'm sure from an owner's perspective, yeah, it's the worst day of your life.
Absolutely.
And then this happens and maybe you're automatically thinking, these people just don't give a shit. These people just don't care. But it's not true. It's an entirely different world that non-vet med people will never understand. But the fact that vet med people also can judge this and say mean things and say, well, that's immature. I would never do that. They should know better, blah, blah, blah. At the same time, like vet med people, come on, we all know that we see lots of horrible things, but we still try to keep things cheery in the back because with all of the horrible things that we see, if we really let all those horrible traumatic things sink in at the end of the day, especially at an emergency clinic,
God.
we would be miserable. We would be more miserable than we already are. A lot of us are already miserable. A lot of us
That's
are
why we
already
drink.
really sad. Yeah, like
Yeah.
the amount of trauma, especially the amount of trauma that emergency clinics see every day is probably, I mean, we should all be going to therapy. I mean, it's horrible. I mean, you can just imagine if you've ever had to take your pet to the emergency clinic, just what you saw or the case that you brought in, if it was traumatic for you, there are people that are dealing with these traumas every
Every
day.
day. Multiple times a day.
Yeah, and sometimes we have to build up this damn wall, and it's not healthy. So we have to look at it from different perspectives. And I'm going to say too, anyone who's worked in vet med but hasn't worked in emergency and made a judgment on this, you guys have no idea. But if there's people who worked in emergency clinics and they jumped on the bandwagon and made an assumption and just started absolutely judging on this as well, like, come on, like really, shame on you. You know how it is. We all want to have a good time with our coworkers. This was a simple mistake. Was it a bad mistake? Yeah, it was a bad mistake. Do you not think that these girls don't feel like absolute shit on top of the judgment that you're already giving them?
Yeah. They feel like shit. I don't know them, but I know they feel like shit. And
I would.
I would, most definitely. And just to throw this whack idea out there, and I've never worked in emergency, but you have. These big companies, Jen just came up with a great idea. I think that y'all should pay for therapy for each and every one of your employees. I think that should just be something you can afford. Get a therapist on your staff for your corporation clinics and let them do therapy for all of your staff. Just saying, I think that'd be a great idea. And Jen is right. Big chocolate, if you're listening, the vegetable company, whoever, think about doing that for your staff. I think that that would really help your staff have better communication and have a brighter future. But that's the thing is like, if you have not worked in emergency, and I haven't, you have no room to judge. Keep your mouth shut. And like your mama said, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. You weren't there. You don't know all the facts. I've seen some of those comments. And as somebody who's only worked in Happy GP and only works in Happy Boutique Medicine now, I was not going to judge. I scrolled past a lot of it. And after like a few comments, I was like, oh, I don't like the way this is going. And I was appalled because once again, we're bullying our own kind.
Yeah.
A lot of the bullying does not come from the pet owners, it comes from us. And
Yep.
I don't know what it is about vet med, but we all feel this need to pick at each other. I'm better than you. Look at me. I'm up on my high horse. Not one more vet. We do this. And then we pick at each other. And then we cry that we have one of the highest suicide rates. Well, you know what? Shut your mouth. Let this clinic handle it. Let their PR team handle it. Let these girls go to therapy and talk it out in peace and sing kumbaya and shut up. Not as
Right.
poised as what Jen said, but essentially I agree.
Well, and like, yeah, I mean, come on, even to just bring it up on the vet tech groups and to be like, oh, well, what does everyone think about this? What are your thoughts? And it's like, it doesn't matter what our thoughts are. You guys don't know what happened. And at the end of the day, everyone that like Michelle said is on their high horse. I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna quote, what is it, Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber?
That movie since it came out as Itty Bitty Baby, but quote away. I want to hear it.
I'm sorry, Mr. Perfect. I guess you never ever made a mistake.
Ooh, okay, I like that.
Come on. We've all made mistakes. Some people who are on their high horse on those social media comments have made worse mistakes than what those girls did. The only difference is they didn't get caught.
Ooh.
Because we've all made serious mistakes.
Mhm.
Credentialed, uncredentialed, we've all made mistakes. We've all done things that if an owner did know about it, they would be blasting your ass on social media as well. And then everybody else behind there would be commenting and saying, oh yeah, should have known better, shouldn't have done that. And after I said that, you can probably think on the top of your head the exact mistake that you made, that if somebody knew about it, it would be blasted. And it would be as big as what happened.
Yep. And how would you feel, too, knowing within your heart there is no malice, there is no negative intent, you had 10 things swirling around in your head. I got, patient A in this room, patient B in that room. My doctor, God, where the hell is my doctor at? The phones are nonstop ringing. You make one mistake because for 30 seconds your brain goes somewhere else and you make a simple mistake. But you love what you do and it's so important to you that you do a good job. But then you're put on blast on social media and your own profession doesn't have your back and they're the first ones that need to have your back. How terrible would that feeling be?
Right.
Like,
And
we're
you already
supposed to have
know
each
that
other's
you
backs.
fucked up and you already feel bad about it. But then you have hundreds of people telling you that you don't care, you fucked up, you made a mistake, you should be ashamed of yourself, you should leave the field, you shouldn't even be working in the field. And then you have people who work in vet med that are saying that as well about you. Come on.
Yeah.
And then we wonder why we have such a high suicidal rate, because we don't even back up our own. We don't even back up our own when and obviously this isn't the first viral veterinary medicine thing that has happened. And for the most part, I feel like when something viral in vet med does happen, vet med professionals are the ones that are the quietest during that.
Mm-hmm. when we should be standing up and protecting each other.
They're either
The
quiet and non-supportive, or they're judging and saying, "Oh, well, we would never do
I would
that.
never do that.
Oh,
Oh,
that would have
no.
never happened. Oh, that was super immature. Oh, you know, just and again, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, I bet you've made a mistake, but I bet it was just it wasn't the wrong place, it wasn't the wrong time, it wasn't
No.
the wrong client, and it got pushed under the rug, but
You know
it
what
could
happened to me
happen
once?
to any one of us.
I think I feel like I told you, Jen, this one off air at one point when we first started chatting, but I made a mistake one time when I was a brand new baby tech, which looking back, there were things that could have changed. My DVM gave me a verbal dosage for, I believe, Torb or ketamine or buprenorphine. I cannot remember. But he said it out loud to a cat that was under for a dental procedure. And it was supposed to be 0.02. I
Mm.
gave point 0.2. All right.
Mm.
Kind of a small little kitten, too. And as soon as I realized it, I looked at my DVM. I was like, oh my God, you said 0.02. I thought you said point 0.2. And my whole body went limp in that moment because I thought I just killed this cat. Like, my whole body, I felt my brain and my heart drop to the floor, which is, I'm sure, the feeling these girls in this scenario have.
Oh,
But I'm
yeah.
very lucky because my DVM was like, it's okay. I think he gave Lasix and fluids, and this was a very long time ago. So my memory, foggy. And the cat was just fine. And after the end of the day, I went into his office. I was still in tears. Like, I couldn't make eye contact with any of my coworkers for the rest of the day. I was so upset and I was like crying to him. And he's like, Michelle, I'm not punishing you. You already punished yourself enough.
Yeah.
You're good.
Yep.
Mistakes happen. We are okay here. And I was like, you're not going to fire me. He's like, no, it happens. And you've been crying the entire day. You're probably not going to let this happen again, are you? And I was like, absolutely not.
Right.
And I held on to that job for like 3 years. And he was a great DVM, but he knew I made a mistake and it didn't get blasted. The cat was fine, by the way. No issues. Cat was fine. And it didn't hit social media. And yeah, but that could have. And then my ass would have been on the line. And I'm sure we've all made mistakes like that or have came very close to it. And it happens to everybody. But the difference is that day I had the support of my DVM and my staff,
Right.
and the cat was fine. And I'll tell you what, it never happened again for the rest of my
Exactly.
life. And these girls, it's probably never going to happen again for the rest of their life. But the problem is they don't have the support from the ones they should be having, which is our community. Because now it hit the news, and I don't know if you've seen it, Jen, but I did see where it hit the human news, like one of the news broadcasters was talking about it. So now it's hitting the news. So now owners are getting revved up and pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
But the veterinary community is not supporting them. And that's where I'm like, we have a problem here, guys. We all know we all make mistakes.
Like, I mean, that's when you look at it and you're like, media, they are not about getting the truth. They are about riling people up. I am so anti-media. I honestly, I don't even watch the news. I don't even
Me either.
believe anything the news says. It's all fucking bias. It doesn't mean anything. It's they're just trying to get a reaction out of people,
Yeah.
whether that's fear, whether that's anger. It's just something to talk about. And so it was proof right there. They're not there to get the truth. They're there to stir the pot.
Yep.
So, and social media is the same way. And obviously I've seen it on social media, and then we've seen other examples. I mean, this isn't the only example that we've seen on social media. There was also the one that happened earlier this year, I believe. Right? Was it earlier this year, Michelle?
I do believe it was sometime January, February this year, the horse doc.
Yeah. Yes, the equine doctor. That there was a video posted, and it was a bad video that was posted. I mean, it obviously did not get good reactions from anybody, including veterinary medicine, and it was blasted on social media. And not only were non-vet med people saying horrible things, but I saw so many veterinary medicine people saying horrible things. And then what, not long after that, they announced that the veterinarian killed himself.
Yeah, I think he drove out to Lake Mead, I want to say. I know it was like a lake. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't know how it happened or anything like that, but again, I feel like that is a perfect example of how unsupportive we are to each other. And I it's I'm going to say it's bullshit when you're sitting there and you're posting not one more vet. Oh, except for the one that made a mistake and now it's viral on social media. That one's not okay. Like that's not okay. So it's like it doesn't make sense to me. Are we going to be supportive of each other or are we not going to be supportive of each other? Whether what we see is right or wrong, at the end of the day, you can say, "Oh yeah, this is a shitty situation." And yes, what happened in this situation was not okay, but we also don't know the full story, but we know each other as vet med professionals and we are human beings and we make mistakes sometimes and we are not perfect. But when we berate each other as well, how do we think that that's going to serve in the suicidal rate in veterinary medicine?
I agree. And my thoughts on that horse doc, I try my hardest to, whenever I get in any sort of disagreement, and if anybody's ever gotten into a disagreement with me, I used to get, I don't know, like I would put feeling and emotion into it. Now I try to look at the facts and present the facts. Here's the few facts that I think about the horse doc. Fact number one, we only got one view, right? And we know in vet med, if we're doing an x-ray, we want two views because what you might see on one side, you may not see on the other side, right? And I saw a meme and it literally was it because I'm a royal watcher since I've had a glass and a half of wine. I feel like comfortable saying I pay attention to the royal family. I think Prince Harry is very freaking cute.
Oh
All
my,
right, but but Prince William, and there was a meme I saw in Vet Med, and it said the importance of two views, and it said DV, and it had Prince William flicking the camera off, but then it said lateral, and his hand was like this, like waving high. And it made sense because from one angle, it could look like something's going on. From the other angle, it could be something totally different. Prince William would never flip a camera off, right? But he would wave to it, but you can only see it look from that angle. It looked atrocious. So
mhm.
how do we not know that from the angle of that camera that it looked atrocious? Fact number one, we got to keep our minds open, people. Number two, I saw in the comments from large breed technicians and equine technicians, I remember saying it, that sometimes you have to do things certain way, just like you said. In emergency, you don't understand the things we go through in emergency. So I'm sure it's true for horse techs, equine techs, whatever. Horses scare me, but those guys, they may have to practice medicine different because of the sheer size and power of these animals that cats and dogs don't have. Like these horses are like 1,200 pounds. Like one little flick and they can kill you. So you might practice medicine differently. Again, I've never worked with large animal. I only had to in tech school. I'm scared of things that are bigger than me. But that makes sense to me when I saw those texts saying, well, sometimes this is how we have to handle things when the animals are getting rough because they're big and they could kill us. Not like, 8-pound Kiki here. That was a big animal. So that's another way to look at it. And I think that veterinarian, but also too, he could have been an asshole doc who is being an asshole at that moment. We don't know. I'm not going to rule that out either. But it wasn't investigated enough. It was just blasted on social media to the point where this veterinarian, and if it was a malicious intent by that veterinarian, he should have been given the grace to get help and maybe get out of the profession, maybe still use his skills as a DVM doing something, I don't know, like not working with animals, but doing something where he's using analytics and getting therapy. Because if he was rough with that horse, then getting him the help he needs might have been the solution. But he was attacked so badly that he knew that there was no escaping this. He knew his career was gone. He knew the entire country hated him. And he went out and offed himself, which it's really sad because either A, we didn't have all the information and we judged, or B, he was in fact too rough and there was malicious intent, but still he should have gotten help, and us as a profession should have been like, okay, we are going to revoke your license. We won't allow you to work with animals, but we're going to get you help because you're still a human at the end of the day. And you probably went into vet med caring about animals, because who goes into vet med not caring about animals? But at some point, that DVM started burning out, something happened, and
Mm-hmm.
he needed help. But we didn't help him. We
Yeah.
sent him off into his grave. And that
Mm-hmm.
right there is the sad part. And we still don't know the full story, but I know that I saw large animal techs and equine techs sticking up for him in that moment, because they know how that works. And us small animal techs, we don't know how it works, but we judged, and that man went to a grave.
Right. So yeah, I want to speak on that. I met up with a couple of my girlfriends yesterday, and one of the girls that was there, we were actually specifically talking about large animal medicine. And one of the girls had said that she had worked with someone who had worked at one of the large animal clinics in my area, and she was recovering a horse, and the horse woke up and it rolled over this tiny little woman. It
And that's why
rolled
I don't work with
over
horses.
her
Mm-mm.
during recovery, and it fractured her spine.
Oh,
Hmm.
that's why big animals scare me.
But she
Okay.
didn't realize that it fractured her spine, so she kept working throughout the day, and then she screwed up her back more. And then she's like, man, I'm really hurting. And yeah, she went to the doctor and her spine was fractured. So that's just one story that was told. I know that when I did my externship with large animal, I was very, very careful with horses and with cows. And I knew that I didn't want to do that. I know people, I mean, we had multiple stories yesterday where somebody was talking about a bull, and this DVM got cornered by a bull, and it trampled him and he almost died, and just so many stories. And we were all literally in a circle talking about how we didn't want to do large animal because of how dangerous it is and how no job is worth it. That's literally what we said yesterday. That's what our exact words were. No job is worth that. But some people are doing it. Some people are risking their lives and working with these large animals for these clients. And some of these clients have no idea what people are sacrificing and what kind of risks we are taking in order to help their animals. And that's exactly, I mean, from what you said, we have no idea, but I know a lot of people that are scared of horses and scared of working on horses because, and I mean, one of my bosses was a large animal veterinarian, and she got hurt so much and like her insurance ended up telling her that they weren't going to cover her anymore because she was getting so many injuries from working with these large animals that they were like, yeah, we can't cover you anymore. So she had to stop working on them and only go to
Oof.
small animal because insurance wouldn't cover her injuries anymore with her large animal license.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing is, that's maybe why. Do we not think that with that DVM, maybe that horse prior to the video, that horse had cornered him, had already, like, thumped him in the head or something? Do we not know, like, if that DVM was in a flight or a fight situation, just like your friend who's getting injured?
Yeah, and I also just want to make a point too to say if he truly was doing it out of maliciousness, if this is something that he was doing a lot, um, from my from and this is just my opinion, and anyone could have different opinions, but if he was truly malicious, I feel like somebody like that was truly malicious and trying to hurt an animal would be narcissistic in a way, and that even with the backlash that that person had, they probably wouldn't commit suicide because they'd be like, whatever.
You're right. I shouldn't laugh at that. But no, you're right, because I think I read somewhere that a narcissist will never commit suicide because they're just,
Right.
which makes sense, but I'm not a
Right.
psychologist.
So that's just my 2 cents on that, was if it was truly malicious and if he truly did not care, would he have really committed suicide? Would he have killed himself? I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. Obviously, I don't know the person. I don't know the situation at all in any sense. But, and I also, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that I've never seen people in vet med be too rough with animals because I have. Do I think that they should be working in vet med still? I don't know. But like you said, Michelle, maybe they just need therapy because I know burnout also can get to that point where people are just so angry and they're so burnt out. So I'm not going to say that I haven't seen it in vet med personally myself. It's not okay. But again, it's one of those things where you said, we see these things and yeah, they're not okay. And yeah, they're stupid mistakes. But maybe instead of judgment and instead of berating these people, maybe what they need is support and maybe
Mm-hmm.
they need therapy and maybe they need a break
Yeah.
because again, we've all talked about it. Sometimes we get so burnt out, and when we get burnt out, we start making mistakes.
Yes.
We do things that we shouldn't be doing, but we do it because we're frustrated and because our emotions are so haywire, we don't even know how to handle them anymore. So, it's just really sad, and I think that from what I saw, and I don't know, I only saw it on one veterinary group. I don't know if you saw it on multiple veterinary groups, but I read the comments too. I read the comments on the equine vet. I read the comments on the most recent incident that happened and the amount of judging that was on it and the amount of negative comments that were made. And it was just really sad. It was very
Mm-hmm.
disappointing to see how much we don't support each other. And even so, we talk about these big social media incidences. But what about even the small things that we see on these veterinary groups where people are talking about something that happened and some girls are supportive, but other girls are just judgmental on the situation at the end of the day. They sit there and they judge and they say, well, I wouldn't have done it that way. You did this wrong. And we're just berating each other.
Yeah. Now, when you talk about the small stuff, that reminds me, and we briefly, and if we're going to be honest, right? Me and Jen said when we start this, we're going to be transparent and honest, right?
Right.
When we talk about small things, in our last episode we recorded, I had mentioned something that I saw, and I've been thinking to myself, was I the asshole in this situation? And I could have been, because at one point I did do something. I was one of those girls in the comments. I was looking at it from, again, show me the facts point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, and if I think it is in the last episode or 2 episodes ago that we recorded, I had mentioned that I had saw a social media post in one of the tech groups that an assistant had pulled the wrong dog for a youth. It was a happy, healthy dog.
Oh, yes, that
Yeah, remember that?
conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And somebody didn't check their 5 rights, and an assistant took the dog and euthanized it.
Yeah.
And
Big
I maybe,
mistake.
yeah, right. And maybe the doctor euthanized, maybe the tech, I don't know. But I saw it within minutes, and I immediately commented, "Are you licensed?" And OP had commented back, "No, I'm not licensed, but I've been in the field for 20 years." And I got jumped on by a lot of girls in the comments saying, "Why does it matter? Why does it matter?" I'm looking at this like, well, I'm just trying to figure out if the girl's licensed or not, because this is another reason why we need to have licensed techs doing only
The
certain things.
facts.
The
Yeah.
facts, I wasn't there to judge. I just wanted to know, are you licensed or not? And then the
Right.
post got removed. So when we talk about this, I have to think in that moment, from my point of view, I'm looking at it facts like, okay, is this something we should learn from? Is this the reason why we should, have only licensed techs handling certain drugs, doing certain things? And then other people were probably like, Michelle's an asshole there. So at one point, I could have been that person too. And I had to reflect on that during the time of recording our last episode to this episode. And I talked to Jen about it. And like, I mean, yeah, maybe I was, but I've learned from that. But again, everybody's going to come from a different point of view. And I was coming from the point of view of, this is why we need title protection. This is why we need scope of license. I wasn't there to bash because I
Right.
made a mistake too. Remember,
Yeah.
I gave the cat 10 times the amount of a drug I was supposed to get. So I've made that mistake too.
Right.
And we've all made those mistakes. And it's just, and again, it was something little, something minor. That post was gone. It did not blow up like these 2 incidences have. It was gone within a
Right.
couple days.
And I mean, and that could have been a social media blast. I mean, the owner,
It could.
why didn't that not become a social media blast? I mean, if I was an owner where my dog was wrongfully euthanized, I mean, come on. That's way worse than what
Yeah.
we've seen. So why did that not get a social media blast? And stuff like this did. So again,
Hush money?
like it's weird, right? So you got to think about things like that. Whereas like again, we've all made mistakes. Some of us have made mistakes that have actually killed patients.
Yeah. There has at a clinic, before I got to one of my clinics, I heard the worst horror story that's gonna instill so much fear into so many people, but I think this has been done before. I think a couple of people before me, an owner brought in a dog that was deceased. And so they didn't check for heart rate or a pulse. They put the dog in the bag, put the dog in the freezer. They went to go open it a few hours later to put a cat in there. And they discovered the dog was deceased after it chewed its way through the bag. Hmm. Yes. Again, this was before I got to the clinic. I just heard the story. So somebody somewhere made a really big freaking mistake. Everybody makes mistakes.
Oh my gosh. That's
Yeah.
awful.
Isn't that horrible? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's one. So check the dogs and cats before you put them in the freezer,
Oh man, I
everybody.
check them like 3 or 4 times, and
Right.
sometimes I even have people double check because I'm like, I just want to be sure.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, yeah. So those are things. I mean, and that's majorly what this episode is about. Is we need to be more supportive of each other. We need to give each other the benefit of the doubt sometimes. Yeah, I mean, come on, think about how often non-vet med people judge us. They berate us. They say that we're in it for the money. They say that we don't care. They say that we we are being sponsored by these
They
food
kibble.
companies or and that's the only reason because we're getting money from them. I mean, just the
Gosh.
horrible, horrible things that people say about us. And then we're doing it to
The
each
same.
other.
Yeah.
And we're not supportive, like general practitioner veterinarians are not supportive of emergency veterinarians. Man, I've worked in GP, I've worked in emergency. The amount of shit that is spoken about each other, about
Oh,
how
really?
stupid each other is, about how, well, I can't believe they handled the case that way. I would have never handled the case that way, vice versa. And I mean, I will say I've worked in general practice after working in emergency and getting very, very angry at the amount of crap that was said about my emergency doctors. And it's like, you know what? They're working after hours and they're not home at night when they should be
Yeah.
sleeping. You are. You're at home at night. You get the puppies and kitten vaccines all day, and then they have to deal with the emergencies that come in at night. And you're sitting here and you're saying, well, I wouldn't have handled it that way. Well, then maybe you should work in emergency. Maybe you should have an emergency clinic. Maybe you should be the one that should be on call for your emergencies for your clients. That
Uh-huh.
stuff pisses me off so much. Stop talking shit about each other. The emergency veterinarians are there so that you can go home at the end of the day and you can go to bed and you can spend time with your family. That's how I feel about that. And then the next morning, and then not only that, you're gonna talk shit, and then you're gonna talk shit to the clients and be like, oh, well, I wouldn't have handled it that way. They should have done something differently, blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, then be a 24/7 clinic so that you can handle it when
The way
your
you want to
actual
do it.
client has an issue, has an emergency, instead of talking shit. Come on, why are we doing this to each other? It makes me so angry.
Sad. It's terrible. I will say this, I'm very fortunate to where I can't recall any incidences in any of the GPs I worked at that we ever talked bad about specialty or emergency. I can't recall any time, and I've said this before.
That's good.
I think for the most part, my clinic life was I had overall very pleasant experiences in my clinic life, but I never experienced that. But I just don't understand why we can't be like, well, their job, even though we have the same title, their job is completely different. It's like
Mhm.
lawyers. You got your med mal lawyers, then you got your corporate lawyers. Okay, so all these guys are lawyers, and they'll be like, well, I do medical malpractice, so I'm sorry, I can't help you out of your speeding ticket, sort of thing. And they respect each other and they stay in each other's lane.
Yeah.
But us fat med people, we're like, oh no, I did it this way. I would do it that way. Oh, what she did was wrong. I don't know what it is about us that we have to cry and complain about how sad our industry is, but at the end of the day, we don't have each other's backs. And that's what
Right.
Jen said right there. Her practices, her both sides didn't have each other's backs. And it's like, well, you don't know how it works in GP. Well, you don't know how it works in emergency. And I've been transparent since day one. I have no idea what emergency life is like, but I'll be the first one to admit I would never be able to handle it. And I stay in my freaking lane. Why can't we
And
do the
not only
same?
that, just from like things that I've seen, it's like it's one thing to be in the back and be like, oh yeah, like I've had, certain doctors be like, yeah, I probably would have done it differently. And then leave it at that. But I've had doctors blatantly tell the client and be like, yeah, this is not okay. Like just basically throwing the other vet under the bus. And again, it's like, come on, what are you doing? Why are you even doing that to make yourself look better? I've worked behind the scenes and the emergency veterinary clinics get way more backlash than general practice
Yeah.
because emergency clinics do not have the same um relationship that general practice do with their clients.
Makes sense.
So
Okay.
general practice clients
Absolutely.
will believe anything their veterinarians say, even if
Oh,
it's
yeah.
wrong.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
And then the emergency vet, I mean, even just the type of medicine that I've worked for emergency vets, I'm like, oh wow, this is pretty gold standard. This makes sense. And then I go, and then because I came from general practice and I was like, whoa, this is not how we did things. Maybe we didn't do things right. But general practice veterinarians do not get the same backlash as some emergency veterinarians do.
You have a really solid point. I've never thought about that. Yeah, because yeah, I've been seeing Doc for 15 years with all my dogs. Certainly he made a mistake. It's okay. Versus emergency. Oh, they want 4 times the amount as my regular doc. They made a mistake. I'm going to go on a crusade. I'm going to
Yep,
fuck them. And yeah, I didn't even think about that dynamic until just now, coming from only a GP background.
yep.
It's crazy.
And then I know that you sent me a text message yesterday. I didn't read it. I was hanging out with
Uh-oh.
my girls when you sent it to me about, yes, curious because I never read the article. Was it an emergency clinic that was, or was it a general practice?
Oh, shit. Now I gotta go back and look. Okay. I send out so many vet med stuff to the point where I forget who I sent what about vet med what. But that also could be the second glass of wine I'm working on, too.
You sent me an article yesterday that
Oh,
said
yeah. He threatened to blow up. I think it was emergency. It was a.
man arrested threatens to blow up veterinary hospital if his pet spider monkey doesn't survive. Was that an emergency clinic?
I think it was actually a teaching hospital. Let me go back and
Okay,
check. But
so
I'm
yeah, a
pretty sure
teaching
it was an emergency.
hospital.
Yeah.
They have emergency departments at teaching hospitals as well. That makes sense. I mean, a spider monkey, it would make sense that it would be a specialty hospital.
Yeah. Let me see here. 37 years old. Okay. So it happened. A Tennessee man is facing charges after police say he threatened to blow up the University of Tennessee hospital.
Okay.
Come
Yep.
on. Like,
Yeah.
but here's the thing I will say that came out of that one. When I seen it circulating, we all came together. I will say this. There were not
Really?
techs up in there fighting each other like I have seen in the previous conversations we had. Because we could all agree, like,
Well, yeah, because you
this
can't
fucked up,
control
man.
that. So when patients die in emergency, and I'll also say that I've worked with technicians, and this was before I worked in emergency, where they were judging one of the emergency clinics because they'd be like, well, every time one of our patients sees them, they end up euthanizing it. So they just want to euthanize everything. They're just euthanize happy. That's all they want to do is they just want to kill all of our patients. And then I just thought about what they said and I was like, that's weird. Why would anybody really want to do that? Like that doesn't sound fun that anybody would want to euthanize patients. And then I went and I worked for that emergency hospital part-time while I was still working at the general practice. And then I realized that half of the patients that come into emergency hospitals are horrible prognosis, very poor prognosis. They are barely surviving. And the kind thing that we can do for them in that moment is to euthanize them because they are suffering so much. And general practices don't see that because for some reason that shit happens at 3 a.m. That's what we would always say. Oh, 3 in the morning's coming around. This is the
Really?
time of death. 3
Is
in the
that like
morning.
crazy hour or something?
Yep. 3 in the morning, time of death. Like, it's just a weird thing that we see. And it's like general practices are not seeing it as much because for some reason, all these horrible things happen in the middle of the night. And when it's like, yeah, you can treat, you can try to do things, but when you're seeing the animals suffer, especially like these congestive heart failure cases, we had a pulmonary, gosh, I think it might have been hemangiosarcoma on the heart or something. We had this really bad stat come in the other night, and the patient was barely surviving. And we were having a hard time placing an IV catheter. One of the technicians, we had a technician trying to place an IV catheter in a front leg, and then we had an assistant trying to place an IV catheter in the back leg. And then I was running blood work in the lab, and then I came out and I saw everybody hovering over this thing. And so I came out and I was like, what do you guys need? And the doctor was like, we need to do an emergency pericardiocentesis on this dog now, like right now. And then it coded in the middle of it. And so I'm grabbing out the stuff too, and she immediately just like pokes it into the heart. She's got the ultrasound on it. She's like, heart is stopped. She poked it in. I started pulling back on the syringe and I started getting blood. And then I literally, as I hear her saying, oh, the heart's starting to beat again. And it stopped. Oh, the heart's starting to beat again. Okay, it stopped. And like, and I'm, and we got as much blood as we could out of it. The patient survived, but
Good.
then we ended up having to euthanize it because
Oh.
it still was not, it's like we saved it at that moment, but was it still thriving?
Doesn't
No.
sound like it. I've never
No,
been in
I
that
mean, the
situation.
amount of euthanasias that we have to perform in one day. I mean, sometimes we do 10 to 15, and it's not because we want to do it. It's not because we sat there and convinced the owner. It's because the pet is suffering so much. Sometimes it's just the kindest thing to do. So, yeah, when I hear comments from general practice about things like that, of like, oh, they just kill everything over there. Well, that's because we see the worst of the worst.
Yeah. You guys see the ADRs circling the drains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then to also say, because I've worked in general practices where maybe they do like maybe 1 to 2 euthanasias a day, and they have it all set up and they light a candle every time a euthanasia is being performed, and everybody needs to be quiet and everybody needs to be respectful, and that's great. I like that.
Yes.
That's
That is great.
awesome.
Yep.
But emergency clinics cannot do that.
Yeah. And again,
That's just my perspective.
no, and it's a good perspective because coming from GP, yeah, maybe 1 or 2 youths a day. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And we know, like, oh man, 4 o'clock is coming around. And I mean 4 o'clock p.m., not 4 o'clock a.m. 4 o'clock's coming around. Fido's coming in. Let's all
Yep.
hush, hush. Let's light that candle. Let's bring out the
It's
the
always
goodie
at the
cart
end
for
of
the
the day.
owners. Yep, we do that. We make sure they're the crazy unruly Labradors not coming in at the same time. Like we prep and we make sure it's like the most calming experience. A clinic up here by my house actually bought the property behind them and turned that into like a beautiful youth garden with like a little pond and an actual rainbow bridge and all these
Aw,
pretty trees and like a
that's
sound
so
effect.
nice.
Yeah, so I mean, and it's so cool, but in emergency, it's happening every 5 minutes, and I don't think it's fair for the GP techs to come on here and judge what happens in emergency. And I don't think it's fair for emergency techs to come on here and judge what we do in GP. And I don't think it's fair that we judge what happens in large animal as well, because we're not specifically trained in those areas. And
Right.
since I've met Jen, I have learned a lot more about emergency than I learned, and I don't mean emergency medicine, the culture of emergency medicine. I've learned
Yeah.
so much about the culture through her that I've not known before in my entire career of vet med. And it's because I don't do it. So why are we judging, even though we're in the industry, why are we judging another specialty and something that's out of our wheelhouse? Like,
Right.
why? Jen would get bored to death in my world. Jen, I think I love you, but you would probably last like maybe 3 appointments in my world. And in your world, I would probably last like 5 minutes and I'd be like, okay, I'm done. We're good. This is done. And that's because we do what we love. We do what we're good at. And we should respect that this is what we're trained in. And we're not saying what happened, especially with the horse doc is right or wrong, because I still feel we don't have the answers to that.
Right.
We do not, and we'll never have the answers. But what I do know is we didn't have the answers. I don't know. We just didn't have the answers. And with this emergency clinic that just came under fire for taking the selfies, again, we don't know as GP, we don't know what's going on in emergency all the time. And if you want to judge them, I encourage you, go work at 3 o'clock in the morning and see what you have to do to keep yourself sane. We need to respect each other for what we're good at and for what our differences are, because we need to have different types of medicine and different types of styles in order to give the patients the best care that they need. And
Right.
which is why it's like, I know this sounds harsh, but sometimes we need to stay in our lane. And like our mama said, if we don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything else at all. And that for the most part, we're all trying to do our best. And those girls at that clinic, they just had the worst week of their life.
Yeah.
They
I
have
bet.
it terrible. And I personally support them. I don't know them, but they have my support because I don't know what it's like to work in emergency. And I wasn't there. I don't know what happened, but I do know it was an honest mistake. And, you know, mistakes happen. Everybody makes mistakes. And social media has given us this platform to judge each other. And like
Yep.
I said, I'm not 100% innocent either, with the girl who pulled the wrong dog for the youth. I had to self-reflect and be like, boy, was I coming off as an asshole in that moment? And I could have been, but I learned from it. And now since then, I actually never, unless it does directly with like mobile tech, I won't say anything else. You won't hear me say peep unless it does something to do with like mobile tech stuff. We just need to support each other because at the end of the day, we're all each other has. A lot of us don't have any other people to connect to outside of VetMed. And people don't get it. I can talk to my husband all day long about my work and it goes in one ear out the other. But I can talk to Jen about it. I can talk to my friend who's a DVM about it, which is why it's important that we have each other's backs and
Right.
respect the fact that sometimes we don't have the answers.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Exactly. And I also have a story to say about a personal thing that happened to me just last week of the same, um, basically based on the same topic that we're speaking about. I had a doctor that I was working with that was working on unblocking a cat. The owner did not have a lot of money, so we were not able to hospitalize the cat. So we were doing like bare minimum, basically what we call like a treat and street, and basically unblocking the cat and sending it home and hoping for the best and on pain medications. Was trying to unblock the cat. She wasn't having any success. She ended up grabbing another doctor. I had grabbed a couple of things for her to use to unblock the cat, where the doctor had asked her, "Oh, well, have you tried this equipment instead?" And she said, "Oh, no, that wasn't grabbed for me." So that doctor used the equipment and unblocked immediately. And then that doctor walked away. And then this veterinarian had kind of said something to me where she was like, it's interesting when you're relief because you learn something new every single time. And she goes, "And I'm sure that you have that same experience, Jen." And I said, yeah, actually I do. I learned so many different things from so many awesome veterinarians. And I told her about an experience that I had that was really cool where a doctor had allowed me to place a Penrose drain without a suture. And she did it first, and then I did it. And the doctor immediately interrupted my story and she said, "Excuse me, she did what?" And I said, "Yeah, we were able to do a Penrose drain in like a little bow tie, and so we didn't have to use suture." And she said, "Well, that's not okay. That's not good medicine." And I said, "Well, we couldn't use suture at the time because the owner did not have a lot of money. It was a cat that it had a really bad open abscess wound and it already had a lot of punctures, and the owner could not afford sedation and the owner could not afford suture. So sometimes you cannot perform gold standard medicine in order to do the best thing that you can for the patient. So do I prefer gold standard medicine? Absolutely, I prefer it. But sometimes owners can't afford that, and you have to do what you can do for the patient. So she immediately went on this big lecture tirade and saying, "Well, I don't think that that's okay." She gave all of her reasons for it. She said it's not gold standard medicine. And started berating that veterinarian, saying that even what I did was wrong. And I was respectful, and I said, and I said the same thing. I said, sometimes people can't afford gold standard medicine, and sometimes we just do what we can. And this veterinarian continued to say the things that she said, and I was respectful, and I didn't say anything at the time. She ended up walking away, and there was a veterinary assistant that was helping me with the procedure, and I looked at her and I said, "So, from where you're from, do you guys perform gold standard medicine most of the time? Because this is the only hospital that I've done relief at that does perform gold standard medicine most of the time." And she said that she completely agreed with me. Sometimes you try to perform gold standard, but sometimes it's not an option. It's not an option for what the owner can afford. And I said, okay, great. We're on the same page with that. So it's just, that's just sometimes the most that you can do. And the VA looked at me and she goes, "What we just did wasn't gold standard medicine." And I looked at her and I went, "Yeah, I wanted to say that, but I wanted to also be respectful, and I kept my mouth shut and I didn't say that." But at the same time, while that veterinarian was berating what I had told her about what another veterinarian had done, she was sitting there also not performing gold standard medicine.
So what's that called? The pot calling the kettle black? Is that the phrase I'm looking for?
Maybe. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm going to let people interpret that how they want to interpret that, but that was also the other part of that story is saying, okay, well, what we're doing right now is also not gold standard medicine, because gold standard medicine would be to unblock the cat, keep the urinary catheter in, keep it for, up to 72 hours, make sure that its kidney values are normal, and not send it home until we know for sure that it can urinate on its own again. Treating and streeting is not gold standard medicine either. But that's all that the owner could afford. And it was
Yeah.
better than euthanizing the cat.
Yeah. And we do what we can with the resources that we have.
Right.
And
And I mean, and you think about like rural veterinary clinics as opposed to big city veterinary clinics, how much money people have in rural areas as opposed to big city areas.
yeah,
And at the
it's
end of the
different.
day, at the end of the day, our goal is to keep these animals alive.
Yep. Happy and healthy to the best of our ability.
Yes.
Do no harm. Yep. Yeah. And we have to realize like that we're all here for that same common goal. So we can't tear each other down just because we perceive something as different. And like Jen's instance, did that whole thing hit social media? No. But that was on like a microscopic level. Same thing with me is I get at least once a week, I get somebody commenting on one of my TikToks, like, "You're not a real vet tech." I've been told that before because, oh yeah, that one was hurtful. And I have just this morning, somebody asked me, and the amount of hate I get is unreal. First of all, my TikToks are designed specifically to help vet techs start their own business if they wanted to. I put a lot of time into it. I don't get paid. I'm not endorsed. I do it simply because I want to show vet techs other avenues. And that's why I do it. Because, what? I'm old. I'm tired. I don't want to, there's no other goal for that. But this morning I woke up and I had a comment from some gentleman by the name of Carlos, I believe. And he asked me, "Oh, so what do you do?" And I'm like, well, I mainly do a lot of, I said it, nail trims, anal glands, medication administration. And then he said, "So you're like Rover." I'm like, what the fuck, buddy? I'm
Isn't
like,
Rover pet sitting?
yeah. Which, nothing wrong with pet
That's
sitting.
not.
I don't pet sit.
No, there's nothing wrong with it, but
No.
that's not the same
He,
thing.
no, he came at it with a malice intent. Oh, sorry, it's Leroy. My bad. Leroy. Okay. So when I posted this video about certain things I do to run my business smoothly, which is what a lot of my content is, like, how do you run a successful mobile vet tech business?
Right.
I get comments that are discouraging, and it's always from other people in the industry. And this guy, Leroy, he commented, like a grooming task. I'm confused. Do you have a doctor with you? I feel like most tech tasks require an order from a veterinarian. So unsure
You
how you could
feel
offer.
like you
Yes,
don't know.
he feels like, yep.
Mm.
Leroy here definitely has some feelings. So unsure how you could offer tech services besides anal glands, nail trim, maybe like helping with SQ fluids. So at that point, I didn't see any malice intent. So I
Mhm.
explained medication and administration, ear cleaning, pet taxi. Some do palliative care, some do laser. I do a ton of client education. It all depends on your state's Practice Act and your level of comfortability. I think some in Montana can use, I'm not 100% sure about that though. I don't have a DVM, but I'm also within my legal scope. So I was like legit trying to like show him
Yeah.
options because I thought he was coming in like, oh, I'm curious. Tell me
Curious.
more. So I wanted to help him. And then he responds, boom, sounds like a rover kind of thing. I was like, Leroy, what the what? So here's the funny part is I did respond with definitely not a rover thing. I'm an LVT who burnt out of the clinics due to low wages and missing time with my family. It's interesting that you come on here with a malice intent, but then you tag Namvi in your videos. And that's like the whole point of this thing.
Yes.
Leroy here came on to my page when I was trying to show other vet techs. Here is how I hopefully can help you. I want to help you. If you have questions, I'm here to help. I don't charge. I just want to give other options in our industry because I love our industry. And then I think Leroy is over here is, oh yeah, let me help you. Let me tell you what I do. I'm within my scope. Oh, so you're Rover. He knew what he was doing. But Leroy on his page had not one more
Low
vet
blow.
tagged. Yeah, had not one more vet tagged in his things. I'm like, you gotta be shitting me, Leroy. Like, come on. You know what you're doing. So you're gonna be one of these guys, probably much less one of the mini vet techs that are, or veterinary assistants, DVMs, not one more vet, not one more vet. But then you bully other people. That's the shit show right there.
Mhm.
That is uncalled for. He came in with malice. I came at it, oh, cool, you want help? Let me explain a few things to you. Not a problem.
Right.
And then boom. So like Rover, bro, are you serious? And yeah, it's disheartening. So I know what I felt like in that moment. I'm just trying to show vet techs other avenues as so you are, Jen. But you
Mhm.
work in a clinic, so I think you're a little bit more respected because I'm not working in a clinic. And it's sad to see that we can't respect each other for how we do our job, even if
Right.
we don't understand it. And Leroy does not understand my job and why I'm so proud of it. And nobody's going to understand why the techs in that clinic took those pictures. Nobody's going to understand why another subdivision of Vet Med does what they do.
Mhm.
But I will say, on a happy note, the one time we came united as Vet Med was when that hospital in Maine was under attack by everybody when they rehomed that 10-week-old German Shepherd puppy where the owner couldn't afford care. She
Yeah.
signed away the rights, and then she came back the next day wanting it, went to the news. That was one of those moments where I was proud of Vet Med because we had that clinic's back. Every single one of us had that clinic's back.
Yeah.
Why couldn't we have done that for this clinic? Why couldn't have we done that for other clinics that have gone under
Mhm.
fire or other techs that have gone under fire? We need to
Mhm.
have each other's back because if not, we're just going to self-destruct, y'all.
Yep. Yeah. And I know multiple clinics are talking about it. I know that they're like, "Oh, did you hear? Did you hear about what happened? Did you hear about what happened at that clinic? I can't believe they did that. I can't believe it. Oh my gosh, I would never do that. Oh my gosh, how immature. Oh, okay. Well, what? Seriously? Sure you've done something. Again,
Yeah,
you've done something. It just
you've
wasn't
done.
blasted on social media. And maybe you're uncredentialed and you've done something stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're credentialed and you've done something stupid. So, again, nobody's perfect. We're all human beings and we all need to do better. And we can't sit there and like Michelle said, post not one more vet, not one more vet tech. Oh, we have the highest suicidal rate. You need to be nicer to us. Clients need to be nicer to us. We need to be nicer to each other.
Mm-hmm.
How about we just be nice to each other?
Yeah.
Because I know that it's not just clients that is the reason why we feel like that vet med is toxic or, that, people, we bully each other.
That's the thing. We bully each other, but the crowd, not one more bet. And
Yep.
just another thought, like, I feel like there should be snitches for not one more bet. I feel like it should be a thing of if you were caught online bullying somebody else, but then you have the not one more bet logo around your Facebook page or you have them tagged, I feel like they should be reaching out and saying, don't mention us. Here's a cease and desist. Because people are using it as like, oh, look at me. I'm not one more vet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all holier than now. But then they throw somebody under the bus because they don't understand what they're doing.
Right. But also think about the
That's
things that you're
sneaky.
saying
Yeah.
and the things that yeah, exactly. Come on. Think about what you're saying. Think about the judgment. And I mean, people are so quick to jump on the bandwagon of, oh, so and so made a mistake. Oh, I can't believe they did this. Because then it points it away from themselves.
Yeah.
And why are we so quick to do that? Why is it a thing? I don't understand. And again, in this particular situation, it's again of, really, you really think that this was done out of malicious intent? Do
It's
you know
not.
anyone that works in vet med that would do this out of malicious intent? Or
No.
would say, oh, yeah, it was probably a mistake. They probably thought it was a coworker's phone. They probably didn't know that it was the owner's phone. Come
Exactly.
on.
They didn't know.
Are we that stupid in vet med to believe that, oh, yeah, like, I can't believe that they would do that out of malicious. Like, come on.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like, why are we so mean to each other? And
It doesn't make any sense.
I feel like we need to find a way to be, and I feel like it's been said over and over again, but we need to find a way to support each other. We do.
Mm-hmm.
And none of us are perfect. We've all made mistakes. We've all said mean things. I'm not perfect. Jen's not perfect. Nobody's
Right.
perfect. But I feel like I said, in some of these big, large corporations, they can afford it. Even if it's like they own a line of GPs. Like, as a part of an employment contract, offer counseling for free
Mm-hmm. Yep.
because we all freaking need it. We
Yeah.
all like it's just such a high stressful environment where we all got to like try to crawl our way to the top, climb over dead bodies to get there. Not animal bodies, human bodies. We got to throw each other under the bus to try to get to the top for the 50-cent raise or the head tech position. We need to have real solutions for our industry if we're going to go anywhere. I I'm scared at what this industry is going to look like in 10 years at the rate we're going, which is another reason why I kind of bounced out and left, went over to the other side. And we need to figure out solutions. And I truly think one of the best ways we can start this is therapy. And
Yeah.
like what Kim Gardner said, medicated. Like, if you
Yeah.
haven't listened to the Kim Gardner episode, she was like, I'm medicated now. And we need to start getting help for that. And a lot of us can't afford the help because we're broke, but these corporations, they can afford it, y'all. The CEO doesn't need another semaglutide injection. We can get help. We can use that money and get the technicians and assistants help. We can get the receptionists help. We can get the DVMs help. We can get everybody therapy because I know they can afford it. And then I feel like that would really help out VetMed a lot.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I mean, like I said earlier when you had mentioned it, it was literally a business that me and my best friend had talked about, where I was like, man, people just need therapy, and that would help so much. But I also think that not only do we need therapy, but I think it would make more sense for us to have therapy from someone who has worked in veterinary medicine as well. So that was a discussion my best friend was going to go into, because she is a veterinary assistant at an emergency clinic right now, but she looked into like getting her degree in, I believe, psychology or some sort of therapy, so that she could, because I think that when we do talk to therapists as veterinary professionals, even therapists don't understand truly what we're going through. They really can't fathom it, but we can fathom it because we've been in it. So I think that it would be really important for somebody who worked in veterinary medicine to get a degree in that and to do something like that. Because if I had to choose between going to therapy and talking to somebody who didn't work in vet med and talking to somebody who did, I'd much rather talk to somebody who did work in vet med, because they would
Absolutely.
understand better.
Absolutely, they would. I do feel like I have heard of a few, like, veterinary assistants that did go on to therapy and a few LVTs that went on to it as well. So I do believe
It's
they're
needed.
yeah, they're out there, but they're few and far in between.
Mhm.
And if they offered televisits, oh lord, I would sign up so fast.
Yep. I think that it would be a big thing, and I think that it's definitely a potential business idea to be working in vet clinics or partnering with veterinary clinics and trying to make it more accessible to staff members because it's bad. Obviously, we're one of the highest in suicide rates. That's what this episode is about. But we don't even support each other. I mean, if we're not working with each other and we don't know each other personally, all we do is attack each other. What's up
Yeah.
with that?
Yeah, I just don't know why. The second something is unfamiliar to us,
Mm-hmm.
we attack it
Yep.
because we don't know why, but we're just going to attack it.
Yep.
Come on.
Not
That's
cool.
where it needs to stop. Yeah. It just needs to stop. Nobody understands why Jen's an emergency. Nobody understands why I just do mainly nail trims, anal glands all day. Like, nobody understands why.
I
We'll
know
never
why you
understand
do
the
nail
horse
trims
people.
and anal glands all day, Michelle.
You do?
Oh, yeah, I
Because
do.
I like to do the same thing every
Because
day.
it's freedom and
Yeah.
you make more
More
money than
money.
when you did when you were working on the treatment floor, and you
Mm-hmm.
can do what you want, and you have
Mm-hmm.
clients that love you, and
I
you're
love my
working
clients.
within the legal scope, and you are your own boss.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you are working at the top of your title or not with the skills that you're performing, that freedom that you
The
have
freedom.
is worth way more than that.
Yeah.
And, to each their own, right?
Yeah.
To each their own. If Leroy is saying those things, if he doesn't feel good enough about himself to do that, then that's on him and that's his choice. And we all have choices, right? We all have choices on how far we want to work in the scope of our license. And I'll tell you what, I mean, I own my own business and I do relief. But I can tell you what, I'm pretty sure Michelle is a hell of a lot happier than I am sometimes because I still have to work out on the treatment floor and I still have to deal with some of the bullshit. And it's really stressful and I still have to deal with the trauma and especially working in emergency. At the end of the day, do what's worth it to you. I know veterinary assistants and LVTs that are pet sitting and making a shitload
Oh my
more
God,
of
they
money
do.
than working out on the treatment floor and they're happy doing it and that's okay. And
Yeah.
they have way more freedom and they get to live their lives and I mean, come on. We all deserve to live the type of life that we want.
What to do? Those, by the way, those pet sitters, who do like overnight stays, the ones that I know, they charge like 100 to 120
Yes.
a night.
They make
So
good ass money.
oh God, yeah. And here's the thing: I went out to lunch with a former colleague, and they told me the rate of their LVT, of their highest paid LVT. I make 3 times more. And when I told this person how much I made per hour on average, their jaw like hit the floor. I'm like, yeah, that's how much I make. So yeah,
Yep.
Leroy, I call me a groomer if you want to, but I
Yep.
make a
Sounds
lot
great.
more than you. And I can come
Yep.
home early on a Friday afternoon, have
Yep.
a glass of wine with my friend, and talk shit about vet med because I prioritize having a life that I want to live over working at the top of my license. I've already
Exactly.
been there, done that, wore that t-shirt. I did all that where I worked at the top of my license. Now I'm just happy. And we don't understand that certain people are going to prioritize certain things over the
Yeah.
other. And yeah, so but it's still it's discouraging on all ends. And I understand why Jen does what she does. She needs a challenge. I've worked with Jen. She's told me this before. She needs to be challenged. She needs to be on her feet. She wants to know, like, in these situations, she can flourish. So I respect that. And she knows why I do my job, which is 100% different. And I'm never going to come to Jen and be like, why did you do this? And she's never going to come to me and be like, why did you do that? Because I feel confident in Jen being an emergency tech. She knows what she's doing. And she probably feels confident in me if I say, hey, this is a fear-free technique of handling your feisty felines. I do it all the time. She's like, you know what, Michelle? You handle probably 30 feisty felines a day. I'm going to take your advice in the same way when my dog Bronson was sick, I immediately took her advice because we respect each other, even though we're in the
Right.
same profession in different lanes.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, we're in completely different lanes. And we completely respect each other and the choices that we've made. And I'll tell you what, I have 3 dogs and I have 2 cats, and I will pay the best pet sitter in the world to know that they're going to take the best care of my animals at the end of the day too. So that's really all that we're asking for. So,
Cheers.
there's nothing wrong with pet sitting. There's nothing wrong with, mobile vet tech. I mean, we need people like that. It's obviously needed.
Mhm.
So come on. I mean,
Yeah.
it just, yeah, again.
It's frustrating. That's not even the worst one. I think I mentioned the
No,
worst one
I
before,
know.
but
And you've talked to
it's
me. Yeah,
weekly.
Michelle gets berated a lot on her TikTok about,
Yeah.
and she gets made fun of and she gets looked down on and disrespected on what she's done. And these people have no idea the lives that she's changed. I mean, but it's like, fine, be close-minded. I mean, yeah, be close-minded, or that's the decision that you've made. If you want to do something differently, it's one of those things where it's like, it is closed-minded, because would I do what Michelle does? Absolutely not, because I don't have the personality for it. I don't have the patience for it. I hate anal glands and nail trims. That's why I don't work in, that's why I don't even work
I
in
love
general
you.
practice. I freaking hate anal glands and nail trims. I cannot do it. But
Oh my God. I love
she
when they skirt
loves
across the room. I'm like,
she loves
yes,
doing it. Like, she loves it. Like, that's great. That
I
that
love
is
it.
that is what she wants to do. We need people like that, and we need people that are willing to go into people's homes. I mean, we've already had this conversation, Michelle. I cannot go into people's homes. I cannot do, like, what you do terrifies me. I could
Mm,
not do it.
yeah.
I wish I could do it sometimes, because the amount of freedom that you say that you have, and the clients that you say
Oh,
that
I
you
love my
have,
clients. Yeah.
and the amount of money that you make in that, like, gosh, sometimes I'm like, oh man, I wish I had that passion for that. I wish I wanted to do that, but I don't. So I have to follow my own path, and this is my path of what I'm doing, because even though emergency is hard, and even though I talk about the trauma, and even, like, I can't, that's what I thrive in. And
Yeah.
I don't know why, and I can't stop doing it. And this is what I do. So we have to respect each other in our line of work and say, I'm glad that you do that.
Yep. I'm glad you do what you do. You're an emergency. I would crack under that pressure. I would walk in there and be like, you want me to do a what? And I get nervous under tense situations, which is why I like boutique medicine. I like the happy lane. And we
Mhm.
need people like Jen who, like these girls, they work in that situation every day, higher stress levels than GP, and they find an outlet and then everybody makes fun about. But it's like, bro, why don't you, yeah, like we said, work that 3 a.m. shift. You walk in the emergency hospital at 3 a.m., and I respect the hell out of Jen for that. And especially when the first time we were set to record, my dog got sick and he's pretty healthy. And Jen was the one to make me feel pretty better that no, he did not have abdominal mass. He was just very gassy. And that's why we need people in emergency and critical care, and we need to respect them for that knowledge and not judge them when they have a way out of this terrible situations that they're always in. Like Jen's always in flight or fight. I'm always like, happy medicine. I'm here to give a biscuit, and Jen's like, I'm jumping up on top of your dog doing CPR. Like two
Right.
completely different things, but it's respecting each other and respecting the fact that we're both LVTs. No, you're no CVT, RVT. You're an
I'm an
LVT.
LVT in Washington, and then CBT in Idaho. I'm
Perfect.
licensed in both states.
Exactly. So we're both LVTs, we're both licensed, but we do completely different things, and that is A-okay. And
Mhm.
that's what we need. We need diversity in this profession in order for this profession to thrive fully.
Right. Yeah. And we just need to be more supportive of each other. And that was ultimately what this episode was about, is just to say, stop the judgment,
Yep.
be supportive. If you're going to spout not one more vet, then practice it,
Uh-huh.
and realize that we're all human. We all
Uh-huh.
make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. And sometimes those mistakes get blasted on social media. And just be glad that your mistakes don't get blasted on social media.
I think that's the perfect way to end that show.
I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, you guys, I think we're going to call it on this episode. And if you have thoughts about it, we'd love to hear it.
As always, yep. Send us a message
Yep.
if you have any questions.
Yep. We'll see you on the next one.
See you on the next one, guys. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to Endless Journeys, the VetTech Odyssey podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and found some valuable insights. If you did, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave us a review and let us know what you think. You can also connect with us on all social media platforms at Endless Journeys, the VetTech Odyssey podcast. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep making a positive impact in the veterinary world. We need you guys. Have a great day.